All right, everybody. We are back again for another episode of the Coach Compass. Now, remember, it's season 6. I still don't know what episode it is. We just continue to record, continue to bring on cool guests from all across the world. Now, remember, hit that like, subscribe, comment button down below so you continue to have this thing grow. Continue to bring on cool guests from all over the world. Now, I've got another special guest with me here today. I've got Coach Maddie, who's a sports performance coach, personal trainer out of 123 Total Fitness down in Georgia. Coach, thank you and welcome to the Coach's Compass.
Thank you for so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
If we look at when you first started and you first got into coaching and the world of coaching became a broad, big picture, what was something that you were first chasing when you first came in?
Well, when I first started in coaching, I actually started in personal training. And I was doing personal training right out of college. Wasn't really sure what I was wanting to do. But in all of my free time, I would always spend studying, researching the sports performance, the coaching realm, because that was something I really wanted to do. I think I hit a plateau in personal trainings. I was like, I need something else. I need some way to grow myself here. So with coaching, I was kind of, yeah, searching for something bigger where, something that helped me grow and develop when I was younger. I wanted to see how I can play a part in that for somebody else, another growing athlete, whatever age that may be.
What made you want to chase that though? Because during your earlier careers, like as being an athlete, what were some of the things that you went through that you wish you would have had that would have probably made you a better athlete or maybe even helped you last a little bit longer of being an athlete? Because I mean, I know the transition myself of going from being a former athlete to now going into what they call the real world. It's tricky. It's tough. And then you're trying to help other athletes that come around. And it's also like the new world of athletes are a little bit different than what we were when we were growing up. Like we had
Oh,
the tough,
for
hard
sure.
coaches and stuff, but like now we've got to kind of change up our coaching style. So how are you helping the next athlete that's coming along?
I'm helping. So I think I wish I had something like the sports performance training when I was building as an athlete. I started pretty late in that game. I think right before I went to college, I had never done, my school didn't have a good strength and conditioning program. It didn't have a good coach in the weight room. So I didn't feel like I had the right tools before going into college and preparing myself for college soccer. So I want to be that for somebody else, give them the right tools, give them the right guidance so that they are fully prepared and super confident before they go into college sports and college athletics because it is a different game.
A
It is
whole
a different
different
game.
game.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, obviously you had enough talent to be able to make it to that to collegiate level.
Right.
But there are now in the soccer world, right? It's completely different now. Like everybody's trying to specialize very early on, right? And
Mhm.
trying to play soccer from the age of 3 all the way up and thinking that, hey, I'm going to be on the next US women's national team. Like
Right.
I've already got it made at 12 years old. How are you helping not only the athlete, but the parent understand that, hey, maybe sometimes it's okay to play multiple sports. And also along the sports training side of things, like it doesn't always have to be, what can I say, like specific. Like, you don't need to always be doing soccer drills, right? Like everything up to help build you up to be an athlete is going to help you come along. So how do you deliver that message?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with everything that you say. So I actually, compared to everybody else, I started soccer pretty late. I don't think I started till I was probably 10 years old. But up until
Yeah,
that
you're real
point,
late then.
yeah, exactly. But I would say I mean, I played at a pretty high level, so I just kinda use myself as an example. Growing up, I played in the front yard. My sister and I climbed trees. We played tackle. We put stuffed our stomachs with pillows. We played tackle football in the yard. We had a basketball hoop. We would play basketball. I did gymnastics. I tried tennis. I played every sport under the sun, and I didn't actually start soccer till pretty late. So and now I think parents are so obsessed with specializing in sport because they think, "Well, the more time I get my kid to stay in the sport, the more time that they can work on it, the better they'll be at the sport." And that's just not the case. So that's a very hard conversation to approach with parents because they think they always need another skills practice or their sports performance training needs to reflect exactly what they're doing, what they're already doing in sports practice. I make it known that when we're coaching, everyone always, some of my soccer players that come in, their parents like, can you give them some soccer skill work and things like that? I say, this is the realm where we're going to keep the two separate. We need to isolate the movements that they want to get better at. And that's what soccer training is for. That's what their practice is for. When they come to the gym, we're not going to touch the ball. They need to get stronger, better, faster, more better coordination, better decision making, things like that, so that when they step onto the field, the court, or whatever it is, they can use those skills that we work on and then apply it to when they put the ball or the racket in their hands. So that is definitely a hard conversation to have with parents, but it is a fighting conversation to have a lot of the time. Like, they do not need another skills work in their week. They need like one rest day. They need to come strength train. They need to come do something else. They need a different stimulus than what they're doing every single day.
Fully understand that because right now I am a strength conditioning coach at a high school, right?
Yeah.
And even the high school, position coaches and football coaches are asking me, hey, can you do more football specific drills? Like when we go out there for conditioning, I'm like, coach, I hear you,
Yeah.
but my job is a strength conditioning coach.
Right.
Your job is to teach them football, right? So let's keep
Mhm.
those two separate.
Let's
Now I
keep it
can do
separate.
things that are lateral movements. I can do things that are linear movements, right? Things that are semi correlate to your sport, but I'm not going out there. We're not doing football drills. Like you
Exactly.
want to do football drills during football practice. So I
That's what
get it. I
that's
understand
for.
those conversations
Yeah.
are tricky and they're
They're
tough.
frustrating.
They're super frustrating because yeah, we know how it goes being a former athlete and also looking at both sides of things now being on a coach side. Who is someone though in this industry that you looked up to as a coach and kind of continue to learn from and helps you develop and make yourself better?
So, like, online or
Anywhere, if it's
yeah.
online, it's in person, you have a mentor, you have somebody, it can be mom or dad that you call every weekend.
I never actually had a mentor, but following coaches online and stuff like that. I mean, I have loved Coach Mallory Henderlong for a while. She is one of my
Dog,
idols. I love her so much. Joe Padula. I learn
another
a lot
dog.
from them. Just yeah, I've learned a lot from them online, and I really look up to them as coaches and try to learn from them. Trying to like use their tools and their experience as my own as well. So I've really looked up to those coaches. But as far as a mentor, I never really had one. So I've had to try to grow into my own and trying to be that for myself. But I do have like a lot of coaches online that I look up to and I learn from.
Now, with all these coaches that you look up to online, have you ever had a chance to reach out to them and like kind of pick their brains a little bit more on like some of the stuff they're doing, or maybe even have them look at some of the things that you're doing? Now, I know online is crazy, right? The online world now is it's just which some people don't understand. It's a snippet of your training of a
Yeah.
different part of the program of
Right.
wherever you're at in your program that you felt the need to record and post out there,
Yeah.
right? It's not the full training or even where you started, where you're ending at or anything like that. So I think that's the hard part for a lot of people to understand. So everybody that's watching today, hey, snippets on Instagram are snippets, right? They're the highlights. They're not
Mhm.
always. They're sometimes good. They're sometimes bad. They're sometimes ugly. Like there's everything in between there.
Yeah.
But how are you? Like, have you reached out to any of them?
I have not. I think I've been too nervous. I feel like I feel like all these coaches are above me in a way. I'm always chasing to be better. And I have struggled with confidence at the beginning, imposter syndrome, trying to grow into my own, get my confidence in my coaching. And I have built that. I've worked on that over time, but I have thought about reaching out to a few of them, but then, kind of held back because I felt like they are too caught up or busy in what they're doing. They're doing amazing just from what, you see online and how they perceive themselves. So I'm like, oh, they wouldn't have time for me to let me pick their brains or anything like that because I feel like that would be a bigger conversation. I just would have so many questions and how they grow into themselves. How would they, structure some of their training schedules? How do they adapt? Things like that.
Don't you think that's kind of something that we need to kind of evolve over time within our industry, whether we're in the private sector, we're in the collegiate sector or the pro sector, that all of us coaches are able to communicate and learn from one another and also just be able to give tough criticism and be able to accept it and also have these real conversations because this walk of life of coaching isn't
Yeah.
easy. Right.
No.
Everybody thinks it's super. You just go from being an athlete and you can be a coach, right? It's okay. Like you did things before. So whatever
Oh,
program
yeah.
you did before, you can use now.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way,
Right.
right? It's all like you got to learn the athlete, build a relationship with them, know how to actually program where they're at in their season, out of season, all that stuff. But how do we continue to bridge the gap and kind of help each other continue to elevate this game? Because at the end of the day, what we're all trying to do is do what's best for the athlete.
Right.
So as coaches, how do we get better at talking to each other?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I completely agree. don't even know where to start with that. I mean, I think it's great to I've talked to a few coaches online, smaller creators, just, supporting each other and then, bouncing ideas off each other. But I guess, I don't know how we could create a space where we can, have open conversation and things like that. I know a lot of coaches offer some programs and things. I've put a lot of money into my continuing education and trying to grow my stuff that I can only, afford so much. So
Yeah.
I don't know how to approach that, other than, think I view it as, oh, if I buy the program or if I buy into whatever they're doing, then that's how they could help me instead of, seeing what reaching out to them will do.
Right. No,
Take
I,
other
I
courses
think, and
for myself.
honestly, like, I reached out to you because I saw your work, and I
Yeah,
believed in what you were doing, and I saw that what you're doing is awesome,
awesome.
right? And I wanted you to have a chance to come on and speak of who you are, right? So those other coaches, like you spoke about, like Mallory, was Joe, Maddie, up in DC, right? Like,
Mhm.
there's all you guys are doing amazing work, and I want to let you know that they're humans too, right? So anytime that you want to reach out
Right.
to them, they're gonna hit you back up. But my other thing that you touched a little bit on is the imposter syndrome, and I think that's a tough one for newer coaches, coaches that have been in the industry, and then coaches that are kind of getting out of the industry. That's a
Yeah.
hard one to overcome. And I think, how do you deal with imposter syndrome and how do you overcome it on a daily basis?
So when I first had imposter syndrome, it was just I think we yeah, like you said, we've all had imposter syndrome. When I first started, it was just, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the right thing for this athlete? I would go home, be like, okay, was that the right choice to make? Are we on the right track? Are we doing the right things? Am I giving them the right information and tools? And then I forget what I was listening to a podcast. I can't remember who it was, but after this, I had a whole other view on it, but this coach had said, if you don't have imposter syndrome, then you're doing something wrong. There's always something to learn. There's always something to grow from. So as long as you're doing something, you're taking the steps and you're taking the extra steps and really investing into the athlete and learning the craft, then you should always have imposter syndrome. There's always more to learn. There's always more we can do to develop ourselves and our athletes. So after that, that's how I've always viewed it is, okay, I should have imposter syndrome. This is okay. That kind of motivates me to learn more and do better for myself and my athletes. So that's how
I
I think I
I
viewed it.
100% agree.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I think I've heard the same thing from Coach Derek Hansen, who's an OG coach, has been in the game for a little bit. I
Yeah.
heard the same thing from Joe, right? Like,
Yeah.
hey, if you don't have imposter syndrome, then you might be doing something wrong because you
Right.
should always be questioning yourself and wanting
Yeah.
to learn more and having other coaches pick at what you do to see if, like, hey, if I am I heading in the right direction? Also, like, it's okay. It's a normal human thing to do.
Yeah.
On top of that, like, there's also little wins in there that we look for on a daily basis. What's a win that you think you had in your career that wouldn't show up on the resume? Like, that would only have to be like spoken from people that have worked with you.
A win for me, I would say just growth in general, I would say not from a number standpoint. I think a lot of people get caught up in the numbers when you're testing or you're working with an athlete. They want to know, like my volleyball players that I work with, they want their approach to be better. They want their vertical but growth for me is, someone saying, wow, I'm moving a lot better on the court. I'm jumping higher on the court. Like I'm making better decisions and I'm performing better on the court because we're not going to have an organized session every time where we can get the numbers. Sport is chaotic, and I want to know that
Right.
you have the tools that you can be confident and perform on the court. And I think a win for me is also when people say, or parents will text me and they say, my daughter or my son is really enjoying the sessions. I feel like, you said with specialization, there's so much pressure and there's so much training on these kids these days. And just seeing and hearing what practices or sessions they have every single day. And then they go into the weekend, like, do you have a rest day?
No, no such thing nowadays.
Right, exactly. So when is that they're getting better, but they're enjoying the sessions that we're getting to work in our session, but they're happy walking to the door and they are asking their parents or dying to come into the gym because it should be fun too. I think there's so much pressure onto these kids these days to perform that their whole identity is kind of revolved around performing. Yes, I want them to get better, but I want them to have fun while doing it. So I really that win for me is that they can enjoy the session while also getting to work and wanting to push themselves to get to work because they wanna be there.
AKA it's okay to still have fun, right?
Yeah,
That's why we first all started playing sports, right? Because we were
right.
having fun in it. We love showing up, being there with our teammates. Eventually down the line, like, hey, we were pretty good at this, so that this could take me to college. Still having
Yeah,
fun, but I'm
yeah,
pretty good. And then you go to the next side of things, it's like I'm still having fun, but now I can get paid to do it, right? I can go to
right,
the professional level, right? Like that's when it becomes really fun, right? But obviously now college kids are getting paid, where it's a whole different ball game out there.
right.
But if a young coach were to follow you around for a week, right, what do you think would be something that would be surprised about how you take your day to day on?
I surprised to take my day to day. I think that's a good question. Let's see. I would say probably, I went or there was a time where I was working all the time, like day, morning till evening. I was trying when I wanted to go into the sports performance realm or the strength and conditioning realm. I had to keep working. I was working 3 jobs at one time just so that I could get into the sports performance realm because, I had to build my schedule up. But to afford that, I needed to keep my other jobs. So,
Yeah.
I think there's, a typical role I feel like in a lot of coaches that there's this huge grind, which I think everyone has that at the beginning. So it was a grind for me at the beginning. I was, coaching all day and I was getting pretty burnt out, but I did that so that I could get to the point now where I guess my day to day is really, I make sure I give time for myself, not only for me, but so that I can commit the time to my athletes. So a lot of time when I'm not coaching, I'm spending my time researching, seeing what I can do for my athletes, what I'm programming for my athletes, and I have a little bit more time in my day. I coach athletes in usually the morning and the evening because school is in session. So middle of my days are pretty open. And so I work in the morning and then middle of my day, I'm just trying to learn about content. How do I put myself out there? How do I market myself? And then also making sure I have the time where I'm, programming my kids' sessions, making sure we're doing the right things and on the right track. So I guess, on my day to day, it doesn't look, as hectic as most coaches, I guess, days would look like because, I've built up the schedule so that I can kind of control that. But I have more time to myself and then I can commit to the outside of the coaching things.
It's tough nowadays, right? There's a lot of different outlets to try to be found on, right? You got Instagram, you got TikTok, you got Twitter, you got Snapchat, like there's everything out
Yeah.
there. Like ain't everywhere you want to be found at. But you got to learn how to post on all of them. And that
Right.
becomes a little bit tricky, especially when you're your
Yeah.
own business owner, your own entrepreneur, right? You're trying to figure out all these different lay of the lands. But look, we fast forward 10 to 15 years from now.
Mhm.
We look outside of your coaching, right? What do you want people to say about Maddie?
Outside of coaching, I would say I think I want people to know how much I care outside of a coaching standpoint. Like I do apply that to my coaching standpoint, but I think that's why I spend so much time outside of my sessions investing into my athletes is because I just care so deeply about everyone and anything, sometimes to a fault, but I genuinely do care about everyone's journey no matter what that journey is. So I think, that's the biggest thing is she cares. She wants to pour everything she can into another individual and help them in any way that she can. I don't say I have all the answers, but I want to do everything I can. Might not be the right answers, but I care.
I love it. I love it. Last thing before we get out of here, you
But
got 10 seconds to motivate a team. What are you saying to them?
oh God, 10 seconds to motivate a team. I mean, this was one that always would get me. How bad do you want it? How bad do
I
you want
love
it?
it.
It's just, I mean, I think it's a simple one, but I think it works. You have a bad day, but if you're putting your heart into it, if you're doing everything that you can for your teammates and not just for yourself, how bad do you want it for your team and how bad do you want this win?
I
That's
love
probably
it,
what I would
coach.
say. That would always work for me.
Keep it simple, right? That's what they always say. The simple is better. But coach, thank you so much for coming on and giving us the honest truth, what it's like to be on the coaching side of things, what it's like to talk to athletes, and what it's like to talk to parents. So I thank you so much for your time today. And I can't wait to release this episode.
I really appreciate you for having me on. I'm really honored. Thank you.
And we're out.